Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we visited Florence, the capital of Tuscany. Considered as the cradle of the Renaissance, it was home to powerful families, creative geniuses and scientists, who left their legacy in numerous museums and art galleries in the city. And if you like our videos, don't forget to like, subscribe and activate notifications so you know when we upload a new video. Florence has about 400,000 inhabitants and is situated in a plain surrounded by hills, through which the Arno River flows, which flows through both the plain itself and the city of Florence. As for parking, at kilometer 290 of the A1 motorway or the Sole motorway, you have the parking Villa Costanza, a paid but economical parking, where the T1 line of the tram will take you in 20 minutes and for less than €2 to the center of Florence, specifically to the station Santa Maria Novella, where we begin our visit. Very close is the Piazza di Santa Maria Novella, a large square in which above all the Basilica of the same name stands out. Considered the heritage of mankind, it is the seat of the Dominicans in Florence, who founded it during the first half of the 13th century, counting in its interior with works of art by the artists Giotto, Brunelleschi, Miguel Angel or Botticelli. From the Piazza di Santa Maria Novella, we arrive at Piazza di San Giovanni, where you find the one that is undoubtedly the most famous monument of Florence, the Duomo or Cathedral of Santa Maria del Fiore, and in which we do not appreciate how beautiful it is until you are in front of this jewel of architecture. Although we are at the end of October, as you can see, the place is full of tourists to visit in addition to the cathedral and its famous dome, the Baptistery of San Giovanni, which was closed for reforms, the Campanile di Giotto and the Museum dell'Opera del Duomo, real jewels of art of architecture, all gathered in one place. Tickets for visiting these monuments can be obtained both online and in the store located in the Piazza del Duomo, on one of the sides of the cathedral. When accessing the various monuments that make up the ensemble, the only thing to bear in mind is that to visit the dome, you have to do in the reservation in a strict schedule, which you must choose when making the purchase of tickets. And this is so because the dome is accessible in groups of up to 125 people. Access to the dome is made from one of the sides of the cathedral, specifically by the Porta della Mandorla or the Gate of the Almond, located on the north side of the cathedral. For the climb to the dome you do not have an elevator, so you will have to climb with piece 463 steps. A quite considerable amount if you suffer from some type of respiratory cardiovascular disease, or if you are suffering from claustrophobia given the narrowness of the ascent. After a first stretch of climb, in which for a brief moment we walk part of the dome, and we can admire the impressive frescoes that adorn it, we continue our climbing, which is increasingly narrowing. This is due to the fact that the dome is not made up of a single piece, but of two domes, one inside and one outside, which are joined in the highest. A final and steep climb, in which you have to be careful to avoid falls, finally takes us to the top of the dome. Despite the effort of the climb, this is forgotten once you admire the stunning panoramic view of the city of Florence. A more comfortable and fast descent takes us to the Museum dell'Opera del Duomo, whose entrance is opposite the east side of the cathedral. The museum, of about 6,000 square meters of area, is divided into 28 rooms spread over 3 floors. To begin the visit, we climb to the first floor, and we access a long gallery, called Galleria del Campanile, where you can enjoy 16 monumental statues. Next to it you will find the Galleria della Cupola, where you will also find a funeral mask by Filippo Brunelleschi, the wooden models of the dome, and a selection of tools from the time. In addition, it also houses large modern models and an audio-visual area, where a short explanatory film is screened. Next, we find the Sala del Cantori, or Hall of the Choir, and in which, in addition to precious furniture and devotional objects, we find Saleria del Coro, which was located over the major altar. After the Sala del Navate, which contains some relics of Marian devotion, we arrive in another small room, the Cappella Musicale, where part of the important musical archive of the Duomo is exhibited, and in which 3 chores in parchment stand out. Next to it we find the Museo dell'Ottocento, which consists of 5 rooms dedicated to the facade made for the cathedral at the end of the 19th century. Before climbing to the second floor, we walk through the Belvedere del Paradiso, where we have a magnificent view of the Sala del Paradiso, located on the ground floor, which we will visit at the end. Between the first and second floors, we have the Belvedere della Cupola, where a lighthouse offers us another magnificent view of it. Once on the second floor, our attention is drawn to the colossal statues of the Galleria dei Modelli, and in which, apart from these impressive figures of considerable size, we can see 7 large wooden models, which illustrate so many other proposals of Renaissance facades in replacement of the medieval, dismantled in 1587. Already on the third floor, we access the Terrazza Brunelleschiana, with an impressive close view of the dome, we descend to the ground floor and visit the Sala del Paradiso, in which we see an impressive recreation of the original facade of the cathedral, which was demolished in 1587. Very close we find the Sala della Maddalena, where we find an image made of wood by Donatello, which presents Maria Magdalena demacrated, curly and reflective, testifying to her years of confinement and penance. Very close is the Cappella del Reliqui, or Chapel of the Relics, where some of the relics that were kept in the cathedral and the baptistery are presented. Then, in another room, we find an unfinished masterpiece of the Renaissance, which is no other than the Médici, and in which Michelangelo began to work in 1546, abandoning it after 9 years, according to the poor quality of the marble. After the visit to the museum, we began our visit to one of the masterpieces of Italian Gothic art, the Campanile di Giotto, and we began to climb the 414 steps that will take us to the highest point of this monument, which has a height of almost 85 meters, and which, like the Duomo, offers us an impressive panoramic view of Florence. After the visit to the Campanile, and before admiring the beautiful cathedral, between the first and second pillars of the right side of the central ship, we find a staircase that leads to the tour of visiting the archaeological remains of the old Basilica of Santa Reparata, which were brought to light as a reason for a large campaign of excavations held between 1965 and 1973. In this place, as if on a journey in time, you can see the different stages of construction of one of the earliest Christian temples in the history of Florence. The old basilica remained standing for 8 centuries, until its demolition in 1379, when the new Basilica of Santa Maria del Fiore was erected. The ancient Christian Palio building was a large church 50 meters long by 25 meters wide, and was adorned by an extraordinary mosaic floor decorated with geometric motifs. There are also a number of tombs from various epochs, including numerous 14th century tombstones from the basilica and the old cemetery area. In the center there is the 14th century tomb of Giovanni de' Medici, a tomb that does not go unnoticed as much as another one, which can be admired through a reed and which is no other than the tomb of Filippo Brunelleschi, indicated by a simple stone with an epitaph. We return again to the cathedral, considered one of the largest churches in the world, with 153 meters long, 90 meters wide, and the same length of high. The first stone was laid on the 8th of September, 1296, being consecrated on the 25th of March, 1436, when the dome was completed. This immense space is illuminated by 40-foot glass windows, designed by great artists of the 14th century and early Renaissance, and whose light allows us to enjoy the magnificent wall painting of the dome, work of Vasari and Succari and representing universal judgment. Finished our visit to this impressive monumental set, we walked along the Via dei Calzaioli, surrounded by large shops and full of tourists, and in which we can also enjoy beautiful buildings. Arriving in a short time at another of the emblematic sites of Florence, we find ourselves in the Piazza della Signoria, a square located in the heart of the city, and which highlights above all the Palazzo Vecchio and its main tower from the 14th century. It is a fortified palace, built to house the government of the Republic. It was originally called Palazzo della Signoria, but later Palazzo Vecchio, when the court of the Médici was moved to Palazzo Pitti. Next to it we find the Loggia dei Lanzi, or Loggia della Signoria, built around 1380, to take up the ceremonies and public meetings of the Republic, and there are several Roman statues and some masterpieces from the 16th century. Next to the Piazza della Signoria, we find the Galleria degli Uffizi, which, although not born as a museum, today is considered as one of the best museums in the world. As we say, it was not born as a museum, but as an administrative building, which gradually the Médici were filling with works of art. The Galleria degli Uffizi was born, an entire palace dedicated to the art, to the works owned by the Médici, and to numerous donations and new creations that the Medicians were commissioning to embellish it. So the original palace, arrived at a certain point, had to be expanded to double its size to accommodate all his works, among which are the Birth of Venus of Botticelli, the Flora of Tiziano, Bacco of Caravaggio, or the Annunciation of Leonardo da Vinci. At one end of the gallery we find the river Arno, over which is the famous Ponte Vecchio, another of Florence's famous monuments, a bridge of Roman origin filled with jewelry and souvenir shops, and where we end our visit to this beautiful city. Returning to our place of accommodation, we meet the American Cemetery in Florence. It contains the carvings of 4,392 American soldiers, most of whom died after the capture of Rome between June 1944 and May 2, 1945, when enemy troops in northern Italy surrendered. Apart from the bricks, in the monument that presides over the cemetery, we find the names of 1409 missing persons inscribed.